Good morning. I suppose I should introduce myself. My name is Liam Keigher. I'm Ed's oldest child. As a student of life, Eddie Keigher's favorite advice to give was, it's hard to be unhappy when you're in gratitude. He would refer to it as an AC or an attitude change. We all needed a lot of those. Everyone here has experienced his infectious positivity. Many people have said that he was always a glimmer in his eye and a smile on his face. What a fantastic way to be remembered. He was loving and loyal to everyone who called him friend. Eddie seemed to have a direct line to God that he nurtured daily. Growing up, if we ever woke up early enough to see the kitchen with his coffee and his meditation books, we knew there was something special going on there we should not interrupt. Seemingly effortlessly to Dad, he worked tirelessly to share his love of God with others, saying that when you pray, if all you say is thank you, that's enough. He was perhaps the most grateful person you could ever meet. At the end of his life, while his body was failing and he had tremendous pain, he was gleeful and interested in hearing about everyone else. And when I say everyone, I mean he made connections with just about everybody that crossed his path. After meeting somebody cleaning his hospital room, he could tell you all about their challenges and their accomplishments in life. And he did tell them. He had a great way of really seeing people because he genuinely cared. Eddie was a man of grace. While a great listener, he also had some amazing stories that would come out of nowhere, and we'd wonder, how have I not heard that story yet? He spoke of when his father came home from the war and housing was scarce. They had specially set up Quonset huts for veterans in the Chicago area. And if you don't know what a Quonset hut is, Dad described it as taking a Coke can, cutting it in half, and setting it on its side. With little money at the time, they had to find creative ways to fill their playtime. And among these brilliant activities was going down by the canal and having fights. The younger Eddie had a bit of a naughty side. Never malicious, but surely mischievous, earning him the nickname Fast Eddie. Once while being chased by a nun in school, he jumped out of a third-story window. And when he was telling these stories, it was as if this was all just completely normal behavior. Eddie was also an expert skier. If you can imagine him being graceful, which might seem a little bit of a stretch, especially in his later years, skiing behind Eddie was truly a sight to behold. It was like watching Baryshnikov on skis. Or if you can imagine one of those really satisfying videos, it was better. He would keep his rhythm in his head while he was skiing by singing in his head, Off to Dublin and the Green, as his Irish and Celtic music were things that he cherished. When Eddie met Kitty, 6 years his senior, while sailing with some friends, he fell hook, line, and sinker. He's a fisherman. Kitty had set him up with numerous friends of hers, thinking he was such a great guy, but was much younger than she. After none of these setups worked out, he finally looked at her and said, "You must know by now that you are the woman I want to marry." Their wedding, while Dad was on leave from Korea where he was a first lieutenant, led to a lifetime of love and loyalty. It also led to him losing his top security clearance because he forgot to indicate that they were leaving the United States to go to Portugal for their honeymoon. We're all sure that he felt it was worth it. Where there was a will, there was a way. Being married to Eddie must have been extremely exciting because he was both extreme and exciting. Having moved from Evanston to Barrington to Orlando and finally to the Woodlands, Dad always brought humor and adventure with him. Each night at dinner, we, and often at least one guest, would wonder what joke he had heard at work that day. He continued finding success and enjoying work, starting at American Printers and Lithographers, or APL, with his father, who taught him a work ethic of being forthright, honest, cheerful, and smart, to eventually becoming the international vice president of printing at Harcourt Publishing. It is our great privilege to have Eddie as our dad. He not only was tolerant of having tons of kids around all the time, but he genuinely relished it. He was always up for taking our friends on long road trips and teaching us any skill that he could. He let my best friend live with us for a semester in high school and taught him how to drive. He instilled in all of us a love of list: skiing, sailing, fishing, hiking, cycling, travel, the outdoors, woodworking, and family togetherness that will continue to live on. He truly enjoyed his time with family, whether it was with his siblings or hanging out with his cousins or later on with his grandchildren. And while happy in chaotic situations, he also wanted to be sure to spend time individually with each of us. So he made a point of taking each of us on our own vacation so he could give us his full attention. Always, even tragic or unfortunate, and turning it into an adventure. On a houseboat trip, pause for laughter, for those who know, I just added that, sorry, to Lake Shelbyville in Illinois with our cousins, it seemed that nearly everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Our station wagon broke down in Keigher, Illinois. There was record-breaking heat but no air conditioning. We slept on the roof to try to catch a breeze, only to be bitten by mosquitoes. There were way too many cooks in the kitchen, literally, and there were just loads of unwanted, yet underappreciated reminders that we needed to have an AC, or say the surrender prayer, which is on the back of your worship aids. Looking back, it's actually one of our fondest memories, mainly because of all the, we'll say, humor that ensued constantly. Our dad was often compared to Clark Griswold, shouting in the airport more than once, "Come on, Griswolds!" encouraging us to not live on Keir time. If any of you were around in the 80s, you'll appreciate that anytime he walked into a Burger King, someone would yell, "It's Herb!" Or at least several people would stare back and forth between him and Herb's cardboard cutout. Never letting his situation define his attitude, Eddie was grateful and positive, and enjoyed helping others anywhere he could. Having conducted himself always with faith, love, and grace, I know that Dad finally got to ride the ox home.
Shelter of the Lord, who abide in his shadow.